The bump. In the 22nd of September 1993, around 2:45 inches the morning, towboat pilot Willie Odom is pushing 6 loaded barges up the Mobile River near Mobile, Alabama, in fog so thick he can't see the bow. He's got no chart, no compass, and limited radar skill, and he doesn't know it yet, but he's turned off the main river into Big Bayou Canot, a shallow side channel. He thinks he spots another tow moored ahead and steers toward it to tie up and wait out the fog. What he hits is the unlit Big Bayou Canot Railroad Bridge. He feels one bump in the wheelhouse, backs off, loses 2 barges, and sends no mayday. The problem? The impact shoves a bridge girder about 38 inches out of line but never snaps the welded rail, so the signal keeps showing green. 8 minutes later, Amtrak Sunset Limited, carrying about 220 passengers and crew, rolls onto that span at roughly 72 miles per hour, and the bridge collapses under it, dropping 3 locomotives and several cars into 25 feet of black water. The locomotive's fuel tanks rupture, dumping thousands of gallons of diesel and setting the water around the wreck on fire. 47 people die, most of them drowning in the submerged cars, others trapped between rising water and burning fuel. It's the deadliest wreck in Amtrak's history. The pressure drop. Just after 1:15 a.m. on the 4th of June, 1989, in the Aglinski district of the Bashkir ASSR in the Soviet Union, 2 passenger trains carrying roughly 1,200 people are passing each other on the line between Ufa and Asha. Many on board are children, headed to or from Black Sea holidays, packed into sleeper cars. A natural gas liquids pipeline runs near the tracks, and it had been leaking. Engineers noticed the pipeline pressure dropping and just pumped it back up without checking for a leak. So, the gas kept escaping, pooling in the low ground along the rails into a massive flammable cloud, hanging there in the dark. When the 2 trains met, a spark from the wheels or the overhead wiring ignited it. The blast was estimated at up to 10,000 tons of TNT equivalent. 7 carriages were reduced to ashes. The official toll was 575 dead and over 800 injured, and 181 of the dead were children. 9 officials were eventually charged, including the chief of construction of the pipeline. The cow. It's the 6th of June, 1981, monsoon season in Bihar, northern India, and an overcrowded Indian Railways passenger train is running from Mansi towards Saharsa, packed so full people are wedged into every compartment. Torrential rain has swollen the Bagmati River below. As the train crossed the bridge over that river, it derailed, and coach after coach toppled off into the flood. According to some reports, the driver braked hard to avoid a cow that had wandered onto the tracks on the wet bridge. Other accounts blame a cyclone or washed-out track. Most who died drowned, trapped inside submerged coaches as the current swept bodies downstream, which is why so many were never found. The official toll came in at 235 dead, but with no passenger list and hundreds missing, estimates run as high as 800 or more. It's widely called India's deadliest rail disaster. 1 locomotive. Late on the 12th of December, 1917, a French troop train loaded with over 1,000 soldiers pulls out of Modane station in the Alps, headed from the Italian front toward Lyon. These men had survived World War I combat, and they're going home for Christmas leave. Wartime shortages meant a single locomotive was hauling all 19 wooden cars. The engineer reportedly warned officials the train couldn't brake fully on the steep downhill grade ahead, and brakes only worked on a handful of the cars, but he was ordered to roll. Once the train cleared the tunnel and started down into the Maurienne Valley, it took off, becoming a runaway that some reconstructions put at more than 80 miles per hour. Near Saint-Michel-de-Maurienne, at the bottom of the grade, it ran onto a bridge and derailed. The wooden coaches splintered and telescoped, then caught fire, fed by the candles inside and the grenades some soldiers carried. The blaze burned through the night, leaving bodies burned beyond recognition. Estimates run from more than 500 dead up to around 800, France's worst rail disaster. Weeping waters. At 3 p.m. on Christmas Eve, the 24th of December, 1953, the Wellington-Auckland Night Express, train 626, leaves Wellington with 285 people aboard. The night is clear and fine, there's been little rain, and nobody expects trouble at the Wangaihu River Bridge near Tangiwai, New Zealand. But at 8:02 p.m., the rim of the crater lake high on Mount Ruapehu gave way, releasing about 2 million cubic meters of water in a lahar, a volcanic mudflow forming a wave 20 feet high of mud, rock, and ice. It tore down the river and struck the Tangiwai Bridge minutes before the train, washing away Pier 4 and leaving the span standing but ready to fail. The express hit it at about 40 miles per hour. Driver Charles Parker spotted something wrong and slammed the brakes about 650 feet out, which saved the last 3 carriages, but the locomotive and 5 coaches plunged into the flooded river. 151 people died, most by drowning, and 20 bodies were swept toward the sea and never recovered. The closed valve. The 13th of January, 1917, near Siurea Station outside Iași, Romania, in the middle of World War I. A passenger train running the Iași-Berlad corridor is jammed with soldiers, refugees, and civilians fleeing the front, roughly 1,000 people in around 26 carriages, riding on roofs, in doorways, hanging off the buffers. The line into Siurea drops down a long grade of about 10 miles. On that descent, the train became a runaway. The crew couldn't slow. The most concrete account says a brake line valve between the third car and the rest had been closed, possibly knocked shut by a passenger clinging to the outside, which cut the air brakes to everything behind it. The train hit about 60 miles per hour. With another train sitting on the main track, the runaway got diverted onto the curved loop, derailed at speed, and slammed into railway equipment and fuel tanks. The wooden cars exploded into fire. Estimates run from 800 to 1,000 dead, Europe's deadliest rail disaster, and there was never any formal investigation. The safest place. The morning of the 26th of December, 2004, train number 50, the Matara Express, nicknamed the Queen of the Sea, leaves Colombo around 7:30, packed with about 1,500 ticketed passengers plus standing riders, running south along the coastal line of Sri Lanka toward Galle. Out at sea, a magnitude 9.1 earthquake off Sumatra had already launched a tsunami, and Sri Lanka had no warning system at all. Around 9 a.m., near the village of Paralia, a first surge flooded the tracks and stopped the train. People assumed the heavy steel carriages were the safest shelter from the rising water. Hundreds of villagers, their own homes flooding, ran toward the train and climbed aboard. Then a wave around 30 feet high hit broadside. It engulfed the train, lifted the coaches off the rails, and hurled them into the trees and houses inland. Passengers were pressed so tight the doors wouldn't open, and most drowned inside. Only about 150 of those on board survived. Estimates run from 1,000 to 1,700 dead. The deadliest train wreck in recorded history. The T-cylinder. Around 2 inches the morning on the 20th of February, 2002, train number 832, an 11-carriage third-class service, is running south from Cairo toward Upper Egypt, packed for the Eid al-Adha holiday with poor villagers heading home. Each carriage, built for about 150, is carrying roughly double that, people sitting on the floor. Egyptian rules already banned gas cylinders and cooking stoves on trains, but enforcement was non-existent, and passengers routinely brought little butane bottles to brew tea. A fire broke out in one of the rear cars, blamed first on a burst cooking cylinder, later on an electrical fault, and it raced through 7 carriages. There was no communication line from the rear to the driver, so the train kept moving for about 4 kilometers while burning. That turned it into a moving furnace. People broke windows and jumped from the speeding train, some dying on the ballast, some drowning in the Ibrahimia Canal beside the track. At least 361 died. All 11 railway officials charged with negligence were acquitted. No crash. The night of March 2nd into 3rd, 1944. Freight train 8017 is climbing the Apennines from Naples toward Potenza in wartime Italy. Officially, it's a goods train, but hundreds of poor civilians have stowed away in the boxcars to barter for food, earning it the nickname the Black Market Express. Just after 1 a.m., the train left Balvano Ricigliano station and pushed into the Army Tunnel, 1.8 kilometers of single track on an uphill grade. Two steam locomotives were burning low-grade wartime coal. The train was overloaded with all those riders, and on the wet rails the wheels began to slip. Around 2 a.m., it stalled, its full length blocking the tunnel, while the engines kept firing. There was no collision, no derailment, nothing torn. The exhaust just filled the sealed tunnel with carbon monoxide. Most of the passengers were asleep and never woke, dying of poisoning as the train sat perfectly intact on the rails. Over 500 people died, with some counts as high as 626, and only 235 were ever identified. No one was prosecuted. Thanks so much for rocking with the channel for real. Hit that subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss a single one. And got a topic you want me to dig into next? Drop it in the comments.